craft that I worked on, that when it's going to travel a long distance, that is how it operates. It flies along and it puts its belly to the target and then brings all the amplifiers to power, and it shoots off in that direction. It doesn't fly as it would in a science fiction movies. It flies with the belly, the bottom forward.
What if I told you the United States government has alien spacecraft locked away and one man claims he's been inside them? In 1989, Bob Lazar claimed he had worked on an actual alien spacecraft, not as a bystander, but as a hands-on engineer.
The lower level of the craft, the floor itself is hexagonal, little hexagonal squares, and the hatch, or if you want to call it a hatch, the access way to get in there, is an ingenious little assembly. It's a honeycomb structure, and if you put your fingers in one end of the honeycomb and push, all the honeycombs will collapse in on each other.
What he found inside was nothing like the flying saucers from movies. So what exactly did Bob Lazar see in those crafts? And if he's telling the truth, why is the government so determined to erase him from history? Before we dive into who he was and what he saw, we need to understand the moment that made him risk everything to speak out.
30 years ago today, KLAS aired a live interview with an anonymous man who made some really astonishing claims. He alleged that the U.S. military was secretly studying alien technology out in the Nevada desert near a base that is now very well known all over the world, Area 51.
A lot has changed in the decades since Bob Lazar first told this wild story.
The details are so mind-blowing, you don't want to miss out. Most people have heard whispers about Area 51, the mysterious military base in Nevada's desert. Few realize that, according to one man's explosive testimony, the real secrets aren't hidden at Area 51 itself, but at a nearby facility called S4. Bob Lazar stepped forward in 1989 with claims so extraordinary that they would either mark him as one of history's most important whistleblowers or one of its most elaborate hoaxers.
Totally impossible. The propulsion system is a gravity propulsion system. The power source is an antimatter reactor. This technology does not exist at all.
Lazar didn't just claim to have seen alien technology from a distance. He said he worked hands-on with extraterrestrial spacecraft, studying their propulsion systems and attempting to reverse engineer technology that operated on principles unknown to human science. The government allegedly trusted him with humanity's greatest secret, allowing him access to craft that had travelled between stars. What makes Lazar's account particularly chilling isn't just what he claims to have seen, but how he describes the experience of being inside these vessels.
I had access and was permitted to view and look at the operation of this main level with the gravity amplifiers and the level below.
The terror in his voice when recounting those moments suggests he witnessed something that fundamentally changed his understanding of Earth's place in the universe. The story that unfolds reveals not just advanced technology, but evidence of something far more disturbing that the government is bent on keeping a secret. The moment Bob Lazar stepped through the hatchway of what he called the sport model, he knew he had entered a place never designed for human beings. The interior struck him with what he describes as an overwhelming, ominous feeling that went beyond simple unfamiliarity. This wasn't just foreign technology. It was an environment that felt fundamentally hostile to human presence. Every surface inside the 52-foot diameter craft was painted in the same dark pewter colour, creating a monochromatic environment that felt both alien and deeply unsettling. The uniform colouring wasn't decorative, but seemed to serve some unknown functional purpose, as if the beings who built this vessel saw no need for the visual variety that humans require for psychological comfort. Perhaps most disturbing was the complete absence of right angles anywhere in the craft's interior. Human engineering relies heavily on straight lines and 90-degree connections, creating familiar geometric patterns that our minds can easily process. This vessel appeared to have been formed from a single piece of material, with every component flowing into the next in organic curves that defied conventional manufacturing techniques. Lazar compared the interior to something fashioned out of wax and then heated just for a short time so everything melted. Components didn't connect so much as merged together in seamless transitions that suggested manufacturing processes completely unknown to human industry. The smooth, flowing surfaces created an environment that felt more biological than mechanical, as if the craft had been grown rather than built. The craft's dimensions revealed another terrifying aspect of Lazar's discovery. Standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, he found himself unable to stand upright except in the very center of the vessel. The cramped quarters weren't an oversight in the design, but a deliberate feature. These craft were built by and for creatures roughly half his height, approximately 3 feet tall. The seats confirmed this disturbing revelation. Small and clearly designed for diminutive beings, they were arranged in a specific pattern around a central reactor. 3 seats positioned equidistant from each other created a configuration that prioritized the mysterious power source at the vessel's heart. The seating arrangement suggested that the craft required 3 operators working in coordination, but their small stature raised questions about what kind of beings had originally piloted these vehicles. What Lazar didn't find inside was almost as unsettling as what he discovered. The craft contained no recognizable control panels, no screens, no buttons or switches that human hands might operate. There were no bathrooms, no storage areas for personal belongings, no decorative elements or touches that might indicate individual personality or cultural preferences. The interior was stripped down to pure function, containing only the essential elements needed for operation: the small seats, the central reactor, and various subcomponents whose purposes remain mysterious. This minimalist approach suggested beings whose priorities and needs were fundamentally different from humans, creatures who valued efficiency over comfort and function over aesthetics. The absence of traditional controls raised deeply disturbing questions about how these craft were operated. If physical manipulation wasn't required, what method did the occupants use to pilot these vessels across interstellar distances? The cold temperature of the craft's metal surfaces added another layer of discomfort, as if the vessel itself was designed for beings with different thermal requirements than humans. The lighting inside the craft was equally alien. Rather than discrete light sources like bulbs or panels, the entire interior seemed to glow with a soft, even illumination that had no apparent source. The light didn't cast shadows in the way human lighting systems do, creating an environment that felt simultaneously bright and dim. These seemingly minor details combined to create an environment that felt profoundly wrong to human senses. Every aspect of the craft's interior reinforced the fact that humans were never meant to be inside these vessels. Lazar wasn't just studying foreign technology. He was trespassing in a space designed by and for beings whose physical and psychological needs were completely different from our own. But the real terror was yet to come. What Lazar would witness next would challenge everything humans thought they knew about physics, materials science, and the fundamental nature of reality itself. During his time inside the sport model, Lazar witnessed demonstrations of technology that shattered his understanding of what was physically possible. The craft operated on principles that defied not just human engineering capabilities, but the basic laws of physics as taught in every university on Earth. Bob Lazar claimed that inside the sport model UFO, he saw technology far beyond human capability. The craft's materials could shift from solid metal to transparent glass-like states while staying structurally intact. It featured a 3-tier, gravity-based propulsion system powered by a stable isotope of element 115, warping space-time instead of using conventional thrust. The vessel also had advanced navigation arrays for interstellar travel, suggesting its creators possessed unparalleled mastery of physics and materials science. But as mind-bending as these technological revelations were, they paled in comparison to what Lazar would discover about the other craft housed at the facility. The sport model wasn't alone. The sport model that Lazar examined in detail wasn't an isolated specimen. According to his account, the S4 facility housed 8 additional extraterrestrial craft, each representing different technological approaches, or possibly different alien civilizations entirely. This revelation transformed the story from one of simple alien visitation into something far more disturbing. Evidence that Earth had become a repository for the wreckage of interstellar conflicts. Each of the 9 craft exhibited radically different design characteristics, suggesting that they hadn't originated from a single source or manufacturing tradition. The diversity was striking and deeply unsettling, implying that multiple alien civilizations had either visited Earth or had been brought here under circumstances that remained classified at the highest levels of government secrecy. One craft resembled what Lazar described as a jello mold, with distinctive rippled sides that gave it an organic, almost biological appearance. The design was completely unlike anything in human aerospace engineering, with curved surfaces that seemed to flow like liquid metal frozen in time. The rippled texture wasn't decorative, but appeared to serve some aerodynamic or possibly electromagnetic function. Another vessel appeared as a flat disc, similar in shape to a wide-brimmed hat positioned on its edge. This craft's design was more geometric than the others, but still retained the seamless, flowing construction that characterized all the alien vessels. But the most chilling discovery came when Lazar observed what appeared to be battle damage on one of the disc-shaped craft. A hole had been punched completely through the vessel's edge, as if something had fired a high-velocity projectile that penetrated both sides of the craft's hull. The damage was clean and precise, suggesting a weapon capable of defeating the advanced materials and possibly defensive systems of an interstellar vessel, suggested that authorities were terrified of where unrestricted inquiry might lead. Lazar was granted access to the craft's interior only once, a restriction that indicated even his security clearance had strict limitations. The fact that he was allowed inside at all showed that his technical expertise was considered essential to the reverse engineering effort, but the limited access demonstrated that authorities were carefully controlling exposure to the most sensitive aspects of the program. The single visit policy also served to minimize the number of people who could provide detailed testimony about the craft's interior features. If multiple technicians had been allowed repeated access, the risk of information leaking would increase exponentially. The compartmentalization also protected the program from infiltration or sabotage. Foreign intelligence services or domestic opposition groups would find it nearly impossible to gather complete information about the program when no single person possessed comprehensive knowledge. The security measures extended beyond simple information control into active psychological manipulation. Research personnel were apparently subjected to intensive screening and monitoring designed to identify potential security risks before they became problems. The monitoring continued throughout employment, with researchers probably under constant surveillance. The program's controllers also appeared to have planned for the possibility of leaks by developing systematic methods for discrediting whistleblowers. When Lazar eventually went public with his claims, he faced immediate and comprehensive efforts to destroy his credibility through attacks on his education, employment history, and personal character. These discrediting efforts followed patterns that suggested they were part of a pre-planned strategy rather than ad hoc responses to an unexpected security breach. The speed and thoroughness with which Lazar's background was questioned indicated that officials had already prepared methods for dealing with potential whistleblowers. The psychological pressure on research personnel must have been enormous. Working with technology that proved the existence of alien civilizations while being forbidden to discuss or even think about the implications would create cognitive dissonance that few people could handle indefinitely. The program's existence also raised disturbing questions about democratic oversight and constitutional government. The reverse engineering of alien technology represented a discovery that could affect all of human civilization. Yet it was being conducted without any apparent oversight from elected officials or public institutions. The decision to hide such momentous discoveries from Congress, the scientific community, and the American people suggested that a shadow government of unelected officials was making policy decisions that could affect the entire human race. The international implications were equally disturbing. If the United States government was hoarding alien technology while other nations remained ignorant of extraterrestrial contact, it represented a violation of humanity's collective right to know about other intelligent life in the universe. But the most chilling aspect of the cover-up was what it suggested about the program controller's long-term plans. The extreme secrecy and psychological control measures weren't temporary expedients, but appeared to be permanent policies, designed to keep alien contact hidden indefinitely. The reasons for permanent secrecy could only be speculated about, but they likely involved assessments that the truth would be too destabilizing for human society to survive. Perhaps the aliens' purposes on Earth were too sinister to reveal. Or maybe the technological gap was so vast that public knowledge would lead to despair and social collapse. Whatever the reasons, the decision to maintain permanent secrecy about alien contact represented one of the most significant policy decisions in human history, made without public input or democratic oversight by a small group of unelected officials. When Bob Lazar made the decision to break his silence about the alien technology program at S4, he crossed a line that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of his life. The response to his revelations followed patterns that suggested a coordinated campaign to destroy his credibility and serve as a warning to others who might consider similar disclosures. Lazar's first public appearance came in May 1989, when he agreed to be interviewed by investigative reporter George Knapp on Las Vegas television station KLS. Initially appearing under the pseudonym Dennis, with his face hidden, Lazar provided detailed accounts of his work reverse engineering extraterrestrial propulsion systems at the secret S4 facility. The response to his revelations was swift and comprehensive. His employment and education records were allegedly erased or altered, making it impossible for him to provide documentary proof of his credentials or work history. Los Alamos National Laboratory, where he claimed to have worked as a physicist, denied any record of his employment. The systematic erasure of his background could be interpreted in multiple ways. Skeptics argued that it proved Lazar had never possessed the credentials he claimed, and that his story was an elaborate fabrication designed to gain attention and financial profit. However, supporters contended that the systematic destruction of his records was exactly what would be expected if powerful forces wanted to eliminate the credibility of someone who had exposed humanity's most closely guarded secrets. Subsequent investigations revealed that Lazar had indeed worked at Los Alamos, but as a technician for a contractor firm rather than as a physicist employed directly by the laboratory. This discrepancy became a central point of attack for those seeking to discredit his claims about working on alien technology at S4. The revelation about his actual employment status damaged Lazar's credibility, but didn't necessarily invalidate his claims about the alien technology program. Many classified programs employ personnel through contractor arrangements that leave minimal paper trails, and the specific nature of his work at Los Alamos might have been related to his later assignment to S4. Lazar's legal troubles provided additional ammunition for those seeking to destroy his reputation. His 1990 conviction for involvement in a prostitution ring seemed to confirm suspicions that he was willing to engage in illegal activities for personal gain. The 2006 conviction for selling illegal chemicals through his scientific supply company added another layer to his controversial reputation. These legal problems created a pattern that critics used to argue that Lazar was fundamentally unreliable and prone to illegal behavior. However, his supporters argued that the criminal prosecutions might have been encouraged or facilitated by government officials seeking to discredit a troublesome whistleblower through legal harassment. The 2017 FBI raid on Lazar's business, United Nuclear Scientific Equipment and Supplies, added a new chapter to the ongoing controversy. The raid was ostensibly part of a murder investigation in Michigan, with authorities seeking to determine if his company had sold thallium to a murder suspect. While Lazar wasn't considered a suspect in the murder case, the timing and circumstances of the raid seemed suspicious to his supporters. The fact that federal agents chose to raid his business decades after his initial revelations suggested ongoing surveillance and possible intimidation efforts. The government's official response to Lazar's claims remained consistent denial. The Air Force stated that they had no records of his employment at any Nellis Air Force Base facility, and official sources maintain that the S-4 facility he described didn't exist in any form. However, the military's standard policy of neither confirming nor denying the existence of classified programs made their denials less definitive than they appeared. The same denials would be issued regardless of whether Lazar's claims were true or false. The lack of physical evidence remained the strongest argument against the validity of Lazar's account. Despite allegedly working directly with alien technology for months, he produced no photographs, video recordings, or physical samples that could verify his extraordinary claims. Skeptics argued that someone with legitimate access to such revolutionary technology would have found ways to document their experiences, despite security measures. Lazar's supporters responded that security measures at such a facility would make documentation virtually impossible, with personnel searched entering and leaving the facility. The Element. 115 predictions that Lazar made in 1989 provided some of the strongest evidence supporting his credibility. His claim that alien propulsion systems were powered by a super-heavy element with specific properties proved remarkably accurate when element 115 was finally synthesized by human scientists in 2003 and named moscovium. However, the isotopes that were successfully created proved to be extremely unstable, decaying in fractions of a second rather than providing the stable nuclear fuel that Lazar claimed powered alien spacecraft. Scientists argued that the physics of super-heavy elements made stable isotopes of element 115 virtually impossible under any circumstances. The existence of a reverse engineering program would mean that human technological development had been secretly guided by alien science for decades without public knowledge. Military and aerospace advances might represent not human ingenuity alone, but adaptations of extraterrestrial technology that had been carefully introduced into human civilization. Regardless of the ultimate truth, Lazar's account has forced millions of people to seriously consider the possibility that human civilization exists within a larger galactic community, and that our governments may be concealing discoveries that could transform our understanding of reality itself. So, thanks for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one.